We had a Radio Shack computer, and we ended up numbering everything, punch it up on the computer, tell me what was on it.
Known as the happiest guitar hero to ever shred a stage, Eddie Van Halen lit up the planet for decades with his wild riffs, crazy energy, and that big grin everyone loved. But behind that legendary smile was a storm he kept hidden. At 62, Eddie finally broke the silence. He had a list, a private blacklist of 6 rock icons the world believed he adored, but deep down, he couldn't stand. These weren't random names either. They were the same legends who once inspired him, jammed with him, and even shaped his signature sound. But something went wrong. They betrayed him, dismissed him, or hit him where it hurt most. And once the truth came out, the rock world couldn't believe what they were hearing. So buckle up and make sure to hit that subscribe button. It helps this channel big time. Let's jump right into this wild story. Eric Clapton, the idol who broke Eddie's heart. First on Eddie Van Halen's secret hate list is the name no one ever expected. Eric Clapton. Yeah, that Clapton. The guitar legend Eddie once idolized so much, he literally wore out his Cream records from spinning them non-stop. Friends from back in the day said you couldn't even step into Eddie's room without hearing Crossroads shaking the walls till the speakers almost gave out. Eddie didn't just admire Clapton, he studied him. Every solo, every lick, every tone, Clapton was his playbook. But everything changed in 1980 when Clapton did an interview that would flip Eddie's world upside down. A reporter asked what he thought of Eddie's playing. Clapton could have tossed him a kind word, maybe a simple compliment. Instead, he hit Eddie where it hurt most, saying, "He's very good technically, but I don't hear much soul." When Eddie read that, it was like the air got sucked out of the room. Those close to him said his face just went blank. No yelling, no tears, just quiet heartbreak. He told his friends, "I learned everything from him," and he says that line haunted him. But the real heartbreak came later, backstage in Los Angeles. Eddie finally met his idol in person, shaking, excited, like a dream coming true. But when Clapton walked in, it wasn't what he imagined. No smile, no warmth, just quick glances at his watch, like he couldn't wait to leave. Eddie walked away muttering, "I think he just wanted it to end." That crushed him completely. The man he'd worshipped for years turned out cold, distant, almost like a stranger. Years later, Eddie finally opened up to someone close to him and said, "I loved the myth more than the man." And that's why Eric Clapton landed right at the top of Eddie's secret blacklist, not because of a wild feud or any public drama, but because that disappointment cut deeper than any guitar string ever could. Richie Blackmore, the stare that froze the room. Eddie Van Halen never forgave Richie Blackmore. And the crazy part? Blackmore didn't even have to say a single word. The first time they crossed paths, the energy in the room dropped like someone killed the lights. Cold, tense, and sharp as glass. Eddie walked in all hyped, finally getting to meet one of his guitar heroes. But the second his eyes met Richie's, that excitement turned to ice. Blackmore just stood there, still as a statue, giving him this piercing glare that said, loud and clear, "You're not welcome here." Eddie talked about that moment years later, still sounding shocked. "He just stared at me, didn't say hi, nothing," he said. That silent stare hit harder than any insult ever could. Eddie was known for his warmth, always smiling, cracking jokes, lifting everyone's mood. But Blackmore, he gave him absolutely nothing. No handshake, no nod, no word, just cold, empty silence. It was like a slap in the face in front of a crowd that didn't dare breathe. And it didn't stop there. At a late 70s festival, one of the techs tried to play matchmaker, suggesting the two guitar legends should talk tone sometime. Blackmore didn't even fake interest. He turned away and said in a low, sharp voice, "Not now. I don't have time for that, kid." Eddie heard every word, so did everyone else. The whole place went awkwardly quiet, and the embarrassment stuck in the air like thick smoke. Then, just when it seemed like things couldn't get colder, Blackmore dropped another jab in the press. When a magazine asked him what he thought of Eddie's explosive playing style, he brushed it off with a smirk and said, "He's a fine player, but too many notes." That wasn't feedback, that was dismissal. The kind of remark that says, "Stay in your lane, kid." From that moment on, Eddie's tone changed every time Blackmore's name came up. That teenage admiration, gone. What replaced it was something darker, a quiet, steady resentment. Years later, Eddie summed it up in one haunting line. "Some people give you the shaft with their eyes." Then he added with a half laugh, "Blackmore didn't just give it, he perfected it." Joe Perry, the rock star who pretended Eddie didn't exist. Now, the story between Eddie Van Halen and Joe Perry, that one's just cold. Before the two ever even exchanged words, there was tension thick enough to slice through. Eddie joined the 1978 tour, pumped to share the stage with Aerosmith, a band he'd idolized growing up. But the moment he stepped backstage, the vibe hit him hard. Every time Eddie passed Joe Perry in the hall, Perry just walked right by. No eye contact, no, "Hey man," nothing. It was like Eddie was invisible. Eddie didn't sugarcoat it. He said straight up, Joe Perry would just give me the shaft with his eyes. That silent stare said everything, and it burned way worse than any insult. Not a nod, not a wave, not even a half smile. Eddie wasn't asking for applause or worship, just a little respect. But Joe Perry, he used silence like it was a weapon. And the coldest moment came one night after sound check. Eddie spotted the Gibson Perry was holding and walked over, all smiles, just wanting to talk shop. Before Eddie could even get a word out, Perry raised his hand, without turning his head, and motioned, "Don't talk." Then he just kept chatting with someone else like Eddie wasn't even there. Eddie stood frozen for a moment, completely humiliated. Later, he told a close friend, "It was like I didn't even exist." That one moment, just a quick brush off, stuck to him like a scar he couldn't shake. Years later, Joe Perry finally tried to make things right, calling Eddie a genius. But by then, it didn't matter. The wound had already settled deep. That silence, that total lack of respect, it haunted him for years. With Joe Perry, the quiet spoke louder than any insult ever could. Randy Rhoads, the rival who struck Eddie right in the heart. The tension between Eddie Van Halen and Randy Rhoads didn't build slowly. It erupted the moment Randy's name started appearing beside Eddie's in rock magazines. Eddie had just changed the entire game of guitar playing. Nobody sounded like him. But then, out of nowhere, came this young, classically trained prodigy everyone started calling the next Eddie Van Halen. That title cut deep. Eddie didn't bother hiding how much it got under his skin. In one fiery interview, he said sharply, "He learned everything from me." To Eddie, it felt like the industry was trying to pass his crown to someone who hadn't walked his path yet. And even though Randy wasn't copying him, the media wouldn't let it go. Every article, every radio host, every fan debate turned it into a silent battle for guitar supremacy. Their styles couldn't have been more different. Eddie was chaos and fire, pure emotion, raw energy, and instinct. Randy was discipline and control, structured, technical, with that classical edge. But that didn't matter to the press. They kept forcing a rivalry, making it sound like a battle for who truly ruled the fretboard. Then came the moment that flipped things from tension to pure bitterness. While Randy was on tour with Ozzy Osbourne, one of his crew members thought it'd be hilarious to tape a tiny photo of Eddie under Randy's wah pedal. So every time Randy hit it, he was literally stomping on Eddie's face. Randy thought it was funny and left it there, and soon everyone backstage was laughing about it. When the story made its way back to Eddie, he tried to brush it off in public, but inside, he was furious. That joke crossed the line for him. It wasn't playful anymore. It was flat-out disrespect. Ozzy didn't make things better either. Later, he said that Randy didn't have a nice thing to say about Eddie. That rumor only poured more fuel on an already burning grudge. Eddie felt cornered, like the same industry that once praised him was now replacing him. The man who had inspired thousands suddenly felt pushed aside, watching someone else being celebrated as the new guitar hero. But here's the twist. Randy Rhoads was struggling with it too. The constant comparisons wore him down. Both of them hated being pitted against each other, but neither would say it out loud. Deep down, they knew the truth. They respected each other's talent, maybe even admired it. But pride wouldn't let them admit it. And when Randy tragically passed away, that rivalry didn't fade. It haunted Eddie. Even years later, Randy's shadow lingered over him. No matter how many stages Eddie lit up, no matter how many solos he played, the ghost of that rivalry never left his mind. Randy Rhoads became the one opponent Eddie could never truly escape, even long after the music stopped. Tom Scholz, the engineer who crossed the line with Eddie. The bad blood between Eddie Van Halen and Tom Scholz from Boston didn't start behind closed doors. It blew up right on stage in front of thousands of fans. Eddie had just finished tearing through one of his blazing solos, the kind that made the whole crowd lose their minds. Then, moments later, Tom Scholz hit the stage for Boston's set and launched into a solo that sounded way too familiar. Same rhythm, same phrasing, same attitude. Eddie stood frozen at the side of the stage, staring in disbelief like, did he really just copy my solo? When the show ended, Eddie didn't waste a second. He went straight up to Scholz and asked, "Why'd you play my solo out there? Why take something that personal?" But Scholz didn't flinch. He just shrugged and said, "It sounded good," before walking away like it was nothing. That casual brush-off hit Eddie like a slap. For Eddie, it wasn't just about someone mimicking his sound. It was about respect. Scholz acted like Eddie's creativity was just another riff to recycle, like it didn't mean anything. That arrogance lit a fire in him. Eddie could handle competition, he thrived on it, but what Scholz did, that felt like theft mixed with ego. And if that wasn't enough, things got even worse later on. At another show they both played, Eddie decided to take the high road. He gave Scholz a polite nod backstage, a silent olive branch. But Scholz didn't even acknowledge him. Crew members said he literally turned his head away, pretending not to see him. That was the breaking point. Eddie could forgive rivalry, even playful jabs, but disrespect, never. Tom Scholz didn't just borrow a solo, he acted like Eddie himself didn't exist. That's why his name stayed locked on Eddie's secret blacklist, not because of the music, but because he couldn't even look the man he borrowed from in the eye. Rick Derringer, the veteran who pushed Eddie past the edge. Rick Derringer holds a not-so-proud record. He's the only guitarist Eddie Van Halen ever kicked off a tour, and that alone says everything about how quickly things spiraled out of control. There was no slow buildup, no silent tension. This one went nuclear from the jump. What makes it even crazier? Eddie actually liked Rick at first. He respected his skills, his old hits, and figured they'd vibe on tour. But things went south faster than anyone expected. The respect turned into friction, and the friction turned into open hostility. So bad that Eddie personally ordered him off the tour. See, Eddie had grown up jamming along to some of Rick Derringer's classic riffs. He admired that confident, showy stage presence. But once they shared the same bill, that admiration flipped to frustration. The breaking point came during a live show in 1978. Eddie had just finished one of his jaw-dropping solos, the kind that left the entire crowd staring in awe. Minutes later, Derringer stepped on stage and played Eddie's solo. Not just inspired by it, note for note, the exact same solo in front of the same audience. Eddie watched from the wings, shocked and furious. To him, that wasn't flattery. It was flat-out disrespect. He'd spent years perfecting that style, pouring every ounce of emotion into it, only for someone he respected to treat it like a party trick. Backstage after the show, Eddie didn't hold back. He confronted Rick, voice tight with anger, and made it crystal clear. No one steals his sound and gets away with it. Word spread fast through the tour crew. Rick Derringer was done. Just like that, Eddie had him dropped from the lineup. Eddie was standing off stage, watching every move, and the look on his face said it all. He wasn't flattered one bit. He was furious. What should have felt like a tribute hit him like a slap in the face. It wasn't homage, it was theft. After the show, Eddie didn't hold back. He pulled Rick Derringer aside and kept it real. He told him straight, "I don't care if people use tapping, but copying my melody, that's different." He even reminded Rick how he'd once looked up to him as a kid, hoping that maybe that would spark a little respect between them. But Rick brushed it off like it was no big deal. He muttered something vague about just giving the crowd what they liked, then turned and walked away without another word. That arrogance hit Eddie like a punch. He'd tried to handle it with class. But the next night, Derringer took things from bad to straight-up disrespectful. When it was his turn to hit the stage, Derringer pulled the same stunt again. Same melody, same phrasing, same finish. And then, just to twist the knife, he closed his set with "You Really Got Me," the Van Halen anthem that had already become their signature hit. The crowd went wild, but Eddie, he was done. That was the moment the switch flipped. He didn't shout, he didn't argue, he didn't even waste breath on another confrontation. Eddie just made the call. He told the band and the crew straight up, "Derringer's not opening for us anymore." No debates, no warnings, no second chances. Rick Derringer had crossed the line once and then did it again with a smirk. And Eddie shut that door for good. That decision locked Derringer's name into Eddie's secret blacklist forever. Because for Eddie, music wasn't just about riffs or solos. It was about honesty, heart, and respect. And when that respect got tossed aside, there was no going back. So now that the 6 names on Eddie Van Halen's hidden blacklist are finally out there, Eric Clapton, Richie Blackmore, Joe Perry, Randy Rhoads, Tom Scholz, and Rick Derringer, which one hits you the hardest? These weren't random names, they were heroes, idols, legends. But somewhere between admiration and betrayal, they crossed a line that Eddie could never forgive. Eddie Van Halen may have been the happiest guitar hero on stage, but behind the amps, behind that bright grin, lived a man who carried quiet scars. Each name on that secret blacklist, Clapton, Blackmore, Perry, Rhoads, Scholz, and Derringer, told a story of heartbreak, disappointment, and lessons learned the hard way. These weren't enemies born from chaos or jealousy. They were men he once admired, even loved, before pride and ego tore that respect apart. People always saw Eddie as unstoppable, the smiling rock god who turned a guitar into lightning. But even legends bleed behind the spotlight. Every cold stare, every backhanded comment, every stolen riff chipped away at that carefree spirit. Yet what made Eddie truly different was that he never let bitterness win. He didn't drag those feuds into the public eye. He didn't trash anyone in interviews or go chasing headlines. Instead, he poured it all into his playing, turning pain into pure sound, heartbreak into history. That's the wildest part. While others played politics, Eddie played passion. He stayed true to his love for music, no matter who doubted him or disrespected him. Every time he hit that stage, it was like he was saying, "You can take my ideas, but you'll never play them like me." And he was right. Nobody ever did. Even when those 6 names lingered in the back of his mind, Eddie didn't let hate define him. He grew from it. He kept reinventing himself, pushing his sound further, faster, louder. Every riff he played after those betrayals became sharper, more emotional, more alive. That was Eddie's real revenge, turning pain into power. Years later, close friends said he never stopped loving the music of those he once admired. He still listened to their songs, still respected their craft, but he never forgot the moments that taught him how cold the industry could be. Those memories became lessons carved deep into his soul. They reminded him to stay grounded, to stay real, and to never lose the joy that made him who he was. So when fans talk about that secret list, they're not just talking about grudges, they're talking about the human side of a legend. Eddie wasn't just a guitar hero. He was a man who felt every note, every slight, every bit of love and pain the world threw at him. And through it all, he kept smiling that same grin that lit up millions of lives. Eddie Van Halen's story isn't just about who hurt him, it's about how he rose above it. His music outlived every feud, every disappointment, and every whispered rumor. He didn't need to tear others down. His guitar did all the talking. So what do you think? Which story from Eddie's secret blacklist shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button if you love a good rock and roll deep dive, and don't forget to subscribe for more wild music stories and untold rock legends. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.